to do in order to create these gospel movements that he's talking about. Gospel movement a gospel movement is a collection of churches who come together to say, we're going to take the gospel to the city and allow the gospel to take the city back from the enemy in every way that he's taken it from us. In poverty, in spirituality, in hunger, and in all the ways that the enemy is attacking us. We say, we're going to take it back. That's what a gospel movement is, right? So he says, well, if we're going to do this gospel movement thing, we're going to need to be together. And if we're going to do it, we need to be intentional. We cannot sit on we can't trust our defaults. We can't trust our default behavior, our default instincts, our default, if we don't be intentional, we will fall into a divisive way of living that disrupts gospel movements. And two of the ways that the enemy is trying to create that division in the gospel movement is in race and is in politics. And so we're finishing up the Roar series today, which is a series that has been about engaging the culture. And to date, we really haven't tackled any of the real issues in culture. We've just kind of talked about, some ways that we can engage. But today we're going to take two of the bigger issues that's going on in culture. We're going to ask, what does the gospel have to say to that? How do we as Christians begin to interact with the racial climate in the world, in our country, and the political climate in our country? Now, those are humongous conversations, and you know that I'm not going to be able to kill that in 30 minutes, especially both of those in 30 minutes. But I am gonna stay true to form and tell it like a T.I. is, as my dad would say, but tell it like a T.O.'s. And I'm going straight to it, and don't be mad at me because no tomatoes in the house, don't throw nothing. Now here's what we know about the enemy. One more thing about the enemy. The enemy seeks to divide us. The enemy knows, Grant Skelton has a great quote. He says, the enemy knows that the church will prevail. Like, he heard Jesus when he said that. Like, he was probably sitting right next to him like, man, Jesus already said that must be true. So if that's going to be true, then he wants to stunt that. He said, if I can't beat them, then I will divide them. Oh, man, you got to write that one down. If I can't beat them, I will divide them. If I can't beat them, I'll divide them. I'll stunt their impact. I'll stunt their ability to spread. I will divide them. I'll divide them by race. I'll divide them by socioeconomic status. I'll divide them by political affiliation. For this room particularly, I'll divide them by who's cool and who isn't. Who I feel like really I connect really strongly with. These are the people I really hang out with. And those new people, I don't know them, and these are a little weird, so I don't want to interact with them. We create divisions naturally. This is what I was talking about, instincts. We can't trust our instincts, right? And so the issue that we have with politics, typically we talk about politics and we say, man, these are really hard conversations. Like, oh my gosh, clutch your, like, be careful, get your flag jacket on. We're about to talk race and politics. Ooh, scary. But the reality is that the issue that's around racism, sexism, politics, any of the isms that we come at, the issues are all the same. They're all the same. The issue has to do with sin. It has to do with particularly one of these three types of sins. In 1 John 2:17, it defines sin as the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. I won't have time to jump into what the lust of the flesh is, but I feel like you kind of know the flesh, the lust of the eyes. We kind of probably let the pride of life though is what we're talking about. What is this thing about the pride of life? The pride of life is that I want to be superior. I want to be better than. I need to find something. I need to create a situation where I am above someone else. And that's one of the things about the pride of life. It's about pride. And so when we come to the conversation about patriotism and racism and all of this, we typically are prideful people and we inject our sense of pride into these conversations. And when we do that, it gets us into trouble because we focus too much on ourselves. Now, so before we jump into this, let's just call it what it is. The issue is not racism, the issue is not patriotism, the issue is pride. That is what the issue is. It's just like the issue is not sexism, because the issue is pride. The issue is, how can I be superior to someone. I'm trying to set myself as a superior. All right, so we carry that in. Now, this is what pride does. Pride typically, through ambition, through superiority, and through tribalism. Tribalism is the sense that I want to be around the people who I like, or what have you. It creates injury. This is what we see in the race conversations, that pride has created injury. But at the same time, pride also injures, but then it also prevents us from real reconciliation, because confession doesn't happen and forgiveness doesn't happen because pride is in the way of confession and forgiveness. That makes sense? Like the way that someone when I have my brother and I've defrauded him or whatever, the way that we reconcile is that I go to him and say, I'm sorry. You can say amen to that, say amen. I just want to make sure y'all awake, right? So, all right, it's okay. Just stay awake with me. Come with me. All right. But I can hear you say, I'm sorry, right? And then, but that's not it. The other person's got to come back and say, I'll forgive you. And they got to mean those things. And until both elements are involved, reconciliation doesn't happen. Reconciliation is the combination, is the product of confession and forgiveness. Okay, the product of confession and forgiveness. The pride gets in the way of confession and says, I don't need to say I'm sorry. And pride gets in the way of forgiveness and says, I'm not letting you off that easy. There needs something else needs to happen to you. I need revenge. You took my hand, I'm taking your hand. You understand what I'm saying? So if we're going to have reconciliation, if we're going to be people of reconciliation, which is what we're going to talk about in just a few, then we have to be people who will not let pride get in the way of our confession and pride get in the way of our forgiveness. Patriotism, racism, sexism, I mentioned this. Coolism is what I call it. All shades of sin, all of them are shades of pride. Misplaced trust and identity and avenues of superiority. Now, all right, so let's jump in. So today we're going to look at the two topics, and we'll look at 4 J's, my 4 homies that start with J, that's going to help us with dealing with this, right? So we've got racism, we've got politics. Okay, so with racism, we're going to look at Joseph, and we're going to look at Jonah, right? Joseph and Jonah. Man, now we can go all over the Bible. Man, I wish I could, but we're just going to deal with Joseph and Jonah. Put that in your head. We'll come back to it in just a minute. I want to tell you that the way to deal with racism in America is to understand the narratives of the stories of the different races. Listen to what I'm saying. This is very important, right? Because the issue that we have with racism is that we don't understand why people who are black, or people who are white, or people who are Asian, or people who are Indian, or people who are Hispanic, or whatever, that we don't understand why they behave maybe in a way that they behave, but that behavior is the product of a cultural narrative that's been going on in their lives. And if we're going to really seek to get by racism, we've got to understand these narratives. Now, we're going to talk today briefly about the extremes, which is the white and the black, because in America, that's a big deal. It's a little big of a deal than white and anybody else, or black and anybody else. Although we can talk about white and Asian, we can talk about all of them. Everybody's got some issues, right? We're going to deal with black and white, right, today. So black and white. So I'm going to give you a little bit of the narrative of the white man. Whew, this one's going to be tough. Let's do it. All right. Here's a little bit of the narrative of the white man. Now, let me do this. When you see the Ku Klux Klan, what do you see? Those are the two things that you typically see. Of course, everyone knows KKK is hooded person. They're hooded in white. You know, I didn't want to get a hood. You know, I thought that would be, I thought that would be inappropriate. So I just decided I was going to talk about the hood. I ain't want to put no pictures of. I ain't want to, trigger nobody up in here. All right. So, but the other picture is a burning cross. Right? The other picture is burning cross. Now the KKK, if you've ever watched some of the movies around racism or what have you, you'll hear some of the KKK yell at the black or enslaved people in the movie. What they'll say is, "Why, you leave us good Christian white folk alone." That's the words they use. Listen to this. You leave good Christian white folk alone. And what they do is they put a cross there. And their anthem, their flag, if you will, like America has a flag that says, we were here, right? Their "we were here" is a cross. Now, why? Why is it a cross? What does it have to do with everything. Now the narrative, listen, one of many narratives, I gotta be careful because this is recorded, so one of many narratives associated with the white man is that the white man is completely superior to the black man. Why? Because the white man is this is a narrative, product of Adam, actual product of Adam. The black man was, in this theory, the beast in the field, as they would call it. The beast in the field is the product of the beast of the field. And the beast of the field is the product of Satan himself, and Satan himself is represented as the serpent in the Garden of Eden. So there's a theology out there, that says that the white man was Adam, black man was the serpent. Right? White man was Adam, black man was the serpent. And it was the black man that tempted the Adam into sin. And so everything that happens through Adam, all the promises from Adam, everything that goes down, he makes a promise to Adam. He says, I'm going to crush his head and bruise your heel. I'm going to bring people and save many nations. And all of these things, all of that is just for the white man. As a matter of fact, in Genesis, when he says, subdue all the creation that I gave you, that includes the beasts of the field. Right? And so, the reason why a Ku Klux Klan member can come to a black man and treat him like he would a horse or an ox or an animal is because that's what he essentially was saying that he was. That he's not like a human. You might understand that's why it was really a big deal for white to marry with black, right? Why they're all humans? Well, that presupposition wasn't necessarily there. The theology was not that. The theology was that the black people were different than that. Oh, and if it's not that one, there's several of these versions, right? If not that, then it was that the black was cursed under the son of Noah. The son of Noah, I don't know how familiar y'all should real quick. He sees Noah naked after they finish, rocking it on the boat, right? And they get done, and Noah gets drunk immediately because that's how Noah's wild. So he just got drunk, and then the son comes in, he sees him naked, and Noah curses that son, and from that son comes all the ites, Canaanites, Midianites, Philistines, all of those, all the enemy of the Jews, all the enemy of God's people, and those were all the Ethiopians, the Cushites, those are all the black people, and they said, oh, these are the enemies of God's people. So the narrative, one of the narratives that you probably don't even understand has affected your life is that at some point in American history, a country that was built on Christian principles, have y'all heard that, right? We're built on Christian principles. How can you be built on Christian principles and have slavery in the way that it exists? It's because somehow you thought the Christian principle supported slavery. Now, so if you were going to stick in that, then the narrative of the white man is that, man, we've got to get brother down, right? Because this is not a battle against flesh and blood. This is a battle against powers and principalities, and the black man is the enemy. That is what it was back in the day, and that is why you have a cross. That is why you say, good, let's do with the good Christian folk, right? Because the story of the white man was that. Now, it's important to understand that. Why do I tell you this? Now, go Google it right on the table. Look up Beast of the Field if you need some help. And you'll go find it out. But go Google it and make sure that I'm not tripping. I did not wake up one morning and just dream this up, right? But this is what we're dealing with. Now, that's the white narrative. Not going to talk a whole lot about that. We'll drop that off and let you deal with it. Black narrative. The black narrative is simple. It's their struggle. Single word. The single word is struggle. Struggle against equality, struggle to have the same real types of opportunities to flourish in society, struggle against oppression, struggle against a late start. Now, in America generally fixed this problem with the white narrative, right? They eventually said all men are created equal. They realized that their theology was messed up. Hey, man, that's messed up, right? Somebody said, Martin Luther King and a bunch of them people were like, look, man, y'all tripping. This is not what the gospel says. So y'all got it worked out, kind of. And then, and so what ended up happening was they're like, ooh, we're going to fix this. But instead of for the black man, instead of giving the black person, we'll free the slave, but because the slave owner is losing money now, listen, slave owner is losing money, he had free labor. And the labor that he had created money. And that money was now being taken from him based on his freedom. Well, they gave money to these white landlords. So where if you lost slave, you got money, right? Or you got land. If you were a slave, you got nothing, which on the surface of that feels weird. Like it feels like you would say, hey, black dude, yeah, we're sorry, here, take some land, right? But no. Instead, it's, we're sorry, white owner, take some land, right? And so this is what we typically mean when we talk about white privilege and the head start, and I won't get into all of that because it's too much, but that should be enough just to let you listen, right? But the story, this is what I want you to get. You need to understand the story. So the black man is a lot like Robin Hood. Robin Hood is a thief, right? Is he a thief? Can I get a amen on the thief? Okay, good, he's a thief. I just want to make sure I was right. So Robin Hood is a thief, right? But the villain, but he's the hero of the story. The villain in the story is the King Richard. King Richard and his chief henchman, old Sheriff of Nottingham. And when the old sheriff shows up in town with his badge as the icon of the King Richard, who was the tyrant and oppression, then the best way for me to have dignity is to be the hero for my community and to stand up against the badge. The image of oppression and tyranny. Now, doesn't mean that you guys see the very obvious correlation. If the black community sees the American government as one that still is oppressive, and then the policeman comes into the set with his badge on as the symbol of that oppression, then it's heroic for me to stand up against this guy. Even though from our views, it was like, hey, you're just completely, you're not respecting authority. That makes sense? Doesn't mean that you agree, but the narratives are good to understand, right? Because if we understand the narratives, we understand why people do what they do, right? I like to write, and well, I haven't been writing much lately, but one of my mentors in writing told me in fiction, he said, well, when you write a villain, you need to understand that no one makes a bad decision. To everyone, they make decisions that is good for them at that moment. No one just ups and, there's a win for them, they think, in their action. And so the key to writing a great villain is to write the backstory of the villain somewhere else, right? So to write the backstory for the villain so you get the why behind the cultural action, or not cultural, but behind the villain's actions. And so that's why the Jokers, like the Joker in the Dark Knight, is so interesting. I think one of the reasons is because they give you a peek into what his why is, right? He's a sympathetic villain because he thinks he's doing a good thing somehow. And so we can process that, right? We say, okay, I'm gonna walk into racist conversations and I'm gonna say, okay, for some reason this action that I disagreed with, they thought it was good because no one makes a bad decision. What storyline helps with that? Now, what does that have to do with you and I today? Right? Because it's easy to say that all that stuff was back then. What does that have to do with us today? Well, there's two things. Number one, Joseph. Now, everyone knows the Joseph story. Joseph was, this cat who was the favorite, the dad's favorite and all that. And the brothers were like, man, we hate you, Joseph, but we're going to try to kill you. But then one of them was like, no, we're not going to kill you. We're just going to throw you in a pit, son, and we're going to wait for you to die that way. So then he gets out of the pit, he goes to the prison, and he goes through a bunch of stuff, and he ends up with Egypt, right? And he ends up ruling Egypt, and because of the things that Joseph did, the Jews in Egypt enjoyed prosperity. Does everybody remember that story? It's like a super quick rear-route of that story, right? And then there's a passage, and then that's the end of Genesis. And then you read the beginning of Genesis. Later on, go read it. And when you read the beginning of Genesis, it gets there, and then it says, and a Pharaoh arose. Pharaoh's the king of Egypt. He says, a Pharaoh arose who knew not Joseph. That's what he said. Who knew not Joseph, didn't know the storyline, of Joseph. And because of that, the default of superiority came in, and he said, you know what, there's too many of them. We need to subject them so that they don't rise up and take us. And this was the beginning of the Jews in Babylon, not Babylon, in captivity in Egypt. Now, so that's real cool. Not really, but that happens, right? So you're like, man, look at that crazy story, right? And then, you know, we move on and we get to the birth of Moses. And Moses, you know, they're trying to kill every kid, and Moses' mother puts him in a boat. I mean, not a boat, well, kind of a boat for him, but a little, I don't know what it was, a cradle situation that's going to float. So he puts him in this thing, right? And then he arrives, and it's Pharaoh's daughter who picks Moses up, right? Now, Pharaoh's daughter is in a privileged position. They're in a position of power. They're in a position where that young lady could go to the king and say, hey, because of who she was, because of the position that she held, she could take her power and save this kid. And so that's what happens. She uses her privilege, her cultural privilege, to save Moses, who, wouldn't you know it, actually ends up being the one that saves Israel. So here what you have cultural dynamics. And you have a power, you have those who are in power. So the first thing is my white brothers and sisters. You have power. And there are things that you have, there's opportunities that you have, and I can't get into them, but come next week because we're gonna hit this like really good. I'm not. There's a lady we're gonna talk about it, she's awesome. And she won't make you feel bad at all. But you can be the Pharaoh's daughter. You can be the Pharaoh's daughter. Because if there's no Pharaoh's daughter, there's no Moses. And if there's no Moses, there's no deliverance. Culturally. It all starts with Pharaoh's daughter. So Joseph, and the story of Joseph, the key in the story is the Pharaoh forgot about Joseph. We need to understand the narratives, how our narratives intertwine, and then we need to allow that to affect how we use the power influence that we have, socially and so forth. All right, that's all I can give you on that. Next week we can go some more. Jonah, brothers. And I guess a few brothers. All right. I was worried. I was like, ain't no brothers in this. I can't talk to them. Okay. So the brothers in the room on the camera. No, the brothers. Okay, here, Jonah. Jonah gives us a very interesting deal because God tells Jonah, say, I want you to go to the Ninevites. And the Ninevites, you know, were cruel people. It's a little bit like if I was a Jew, someone saying, hey, I want you to go and prophesy to the Nazis. Like at the time when they were making miracles happen in the wrong sort of way, right? And so like, man, no, I hate the Nazis, right? I hate them. Why would I go and do that? Actually, if something bad going to happen to them, I want that. God, please judge them, right? Because secretly, I want that to be bad, right? So that's why Jonah says, no, I ain't going to them. Don't forget that. So he tries to leave, and of course, God says, nah, son, gets to get the fish, spits him out over here, and then all of a sudden, Jonah comes out, right? And he says, okay, I guess I'll do what God teaches, right? You know, he's a reluctant. This is all like, I want you to remember, this is like you and I believe this is like the church today. We are reluctantly engaging the culture. Not truly seeking to obey the commandment to love the culture with intent to bring them the gospel so that we can celebrate their deliverance, but we're just reluctantly obedient. Halfway there, right? And then we get to Jonah 4, 1 through 4. And so, you know, you have to read some of the other stuff in Jonah, but basically it works. Jonah goes and says what the Lord says, and then it was like, you're right. And so they start fasting, and they start doing all this stuff, and you would expect that maybe Jonah would be happy about that, except Jonah is not. And what happens is, it says this in Jonah 4, it said, but it displeased Jonah exceedingly, and he became angry. Listen, he says, so he prayed to the Lord, our Lord, was not this what I said to you when I was still in my country? He says, for I know that you are a gracious and merciful God, slow to anger and abundant in loving kindness, who relents from doing harm. Therefore, O Lord, please take my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live. Jonah's upset. Jonas got he's a little upset. Why is he upset? He is upset because God is not going to judge Nineveh. God going to bring the judgment upon Nineveh. Now, what does it have to do with us? My brothers, sisters, there's been a great crime done to you. We have a Nineveh. Now, if we're Christians, then God is asking us to be Jonah, to take the gospel to the situation. And when the situation corrects itself, we have to release revenge. We have to add it. We got to do forgiveness. We have to do forgiveness. Now, if this was 90% brothers, right, instead of like 10%, if this was a lot of y'all, I could see it in the room, they'd be like, man, what are you talking about, right? But this is the scandal that is the gospel. Because when Jesus says that I want you to love your enemies, he meant it. It wasn't filler. He said, I want you to love your enemies. And then so the room said, but what about justice? What about justice, right? Something should happen. I don't understand how God can just let them get away. I'm just supposed to forgive and let it go. Like, what about justice? And what I would say to you is that the heavenly view of justice is very simple. Because you pour out of the earthly story into the heavenly story, you say whatever justice that is supposed to happen to my enemy happened to Jesus on the cross. Whatever it is that I wished upon my enemy, the white community, that KKK member who's confessing and I'm not ready to forgive him, whatever I really wish would happen to him, that is what Jesus died with and for. And it's because justice is settled on the cross that we can love our neighbors. We no longer need to look for justice upon our neighbor, because the Lord said, vengeance is mine, I will repay. Your job is to not be the barrier of relationship. As the ambassador of reconciliation, and we're going to get into that in just a second, as the ambassador of reconciliation, your job is to be ready for relationship. And that means that you're ready to forgive. And you can forgive with a good conscience, because that fight back, they hit you in the face and you're like, man, he deserves to be hit back. He sure enough does. And the truth is, you probably did something that you deserved. And what Jesus said is, well, whatever your sin is, I died for you, just like I died for you. The beauty of the cross is that it is both a picture of love and justice. And because it is the picture of love and justice, we can bring the gospel to all of our relationships, and reconciliation can happen. And this can happen not just in racial things, right? This can happen with broken relationships with moms and daughters and fathers and sons, uncles, friends, marriages. This concept of reconciliation, because of what Jesus did on the cross, is the thing that brings people together. And that is why Jesus said that I didn't put you in the world to be ambassadors of reconciliation. He didn't say ambassadors of justice. He said ambassadors of reconciliation. Isn't that the story? Isn't that the one story that God is writing for all of humanity? That you have defrauded me, that you have hurt me. I think it's interesting because we don't put on the same level the things that we've done to God, the things that have been done to us. You know, the things that we do to God, we're kind of like, man, God, come on, man, you can deal with that. But this person over here, they completely betrayed me. I don't think you understand. Like, something should happen to this person, not my stuff. Something should happen to this person, though, because this is completely different. Jesus steps into that and he says, hold up, bro, I was betrayed. I was the subject of unjust behavior. I was hated. I was spit on. I was in an oppressed class when I lived. The scripture said there's nothing that we've suffered that Jesus hasn't suffered. And so if Jesus can stand him down on the cross and say, I'm sorry, I forgive them, then he's calling us to do the very same thing. And it's because of the cross that we can do it. Now quickly. The definition of justice for the secular world is an eye for an eye. See, for the secular, but the kingdom vision of justice is Christ. Like everything in the kingdom, is Christ. And that's something I love about anything. Now, politics, I'm fire through this because I don't want to, we gotta move. Politics, the scripture in Mark 12:17 says, render to Caesar what is Caesar's and render to God what is God's. Now, what's interesting to me about this passage is that we typically say, render to Caesar that which is Caesar, and render to God what is God. You know, it's almost like render to Caesar is the point of that passage, so we put that in really, really high, like 50 font, and then the render to God what is God is like the 12 font. You know, it's like you know, just right? But the truth is that both of things should go together. Now, listen, I'm not going to tell you how to vote tonight. I know that's what you wanted me to do. No, it's fine. No, I'm not going to tell you how to vote tonight. What I'm going to say to you is this. Jesus, when asked how to deal with a tyrannical government, should we pay taxes? Jesus says, render to Caesar, render to Caesar, render to God, render to God. Let's rephrase what he says. You can say that he said, do not render to Caesar what is God's, and do not render to God what is Caesar's. There is an aspect of your life that God has left you here. It's not, you know, it's not why am I here, it's why am I still here? That's the question of the Christian. Why am I still here, right? I've been rescued from all this. Why am I still here? You are still here, and in your still here-ness, you have a role to play in your city, in your government. And yes, part of that is to be a good citizen and to render to Caesar that which is Caesar's. The problem is that we began to render to Caesar the things that belong to God. Suddenly the things, our chief loyalty, our chief trust, our sense of identity, all of that ends up becoming who I am as an American, who I am as a Democrat, who I am as a Republican, who I am as a whatever, I happen to be a libertarian and you know, spaghetti monster person and all of that. Whatever they happen to be, and honestly, I don't concern myself with a lot of that because I literally just focus. You want to know my politics? Antwuan focuses on what is Jesus asking me to do next. That's really what drives my life. What is the next thing he's asking me to do? Because God is my king. The Constitution that I really base my life on is a Bill of Rights defined by what the Scriptures tell me, that every man is created in God's image and therefore is equal, that I should love my neighbor, that I should go the extra mile, that I should suck it up when my brother in Christ defrauds me sometimes, that he who wants to be first will be last and last will be first, so forth and so on, and we can do a Bill of Rights based on kingdom living. I spend my time dealing with that thing. So what is it? Well, that's what I mean. You don't engage in political stuff. No, I'm saying be a good citizen. You know, vote, like do your thing, vote, do your thing. But don't lose yourself to government. Don't overtrust government. Trust God. You guys have probably heard that like for the last 3 or 4 weeks between many a pulpit. Like everybody's talking about it right now. There's books everywhere. Everybody's like, hey, you know. So you guys know that. Now let me give you something that's different. In Jeremiah 29, and we're about done. In Jeremiah 29, God tells Jeremiah that he's about to take the Jews into Babylon. As a matter of fact, I'm going to read that. It's not on the screens, so you're just going to have to listen. So take a deep breath. All right, because I want you to stay with me because I want you to hear what's going to happen. And again, I promise we'll be done in just a few. Jeremiah chapter 29, verses 1 through 14. Reads like this. Listen. Now these are the words of the letter that Jeremiah the prophet sent from Jerusalem to the remainders of the elders who were carried away captive, to the priests and the prophets and all the people whom Nebuchadnezzar, who was the tyrant king, had carried away captive from Jerusalem to Babylon. So Jerusalem's going to Babylon, and Babylon is not a cool spot, right? I'm going to skip verse 2, I'm going to skip verse 3, and I'm going to go straight to verse 4. Thus says the Lord of hosts. Now listen, the God of Israel, to all who are carried away captive, who I have called, listen, who I have caused to be carried away from Jerusalem to Babylon. This is what God wants to tell you. He said, I put you there. Build houses and dwell in them. Plant gardens and eat their fruits. Take wives and beget sons and daughters, and take husbands, so that you may bear sons and daughters, that you may increase there and be not diminished. And seek the peace of the city where I have caused you to be carried away captive. I got to say that. Got to. And seek, write down 29:7. And seek the peace of the city where I have caused you to be carried away captive, and pray to the Lord for it. For in his peace you will have peace. For thus says the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, do not let your prophets and your diviners and all these in your midst deceive you, or listen to dreams and cause you to dream. For they prophesy falsely in my name. For thus says the Lord, after 70 years are completed in Babylon, I will visit you and perform my good work towards you and cause you to return to this place. And here's that verse. We take out of context from that. For I know the thoughts I think towards you, says the Lord, thoughts of peace and not evil, to give you a future and a hope. Then you will call upon me and go and pray to me, and I will listen to you. And you will seek me and find me, and when you search for me with all your heart, I'll be found by you, says the Lord. I will bring you back from captivity. I will gather you from the nations and from all places where I have driven you, says the Lord. And I will bring you to the place which I caused you to be carried away captive. Now, what's interesting to me about that, especially where we are today, is because I think the Christian church, right, because I'm a kingdom person and I'm focused on the kingdom, the Christian church, I believe, very well may be being led into Babylon. Right? He says, I will bring you to Babylon. It's safe to say that nobody is super duper comfortable with the presidential candidates. Safe to say that, right? That something's going to not quite be right in one way or the other. And we know that the church has been losing influence over the years. And what Jeremiah says to me, and I think maybe it's saying to you and I, is yes, we as the church need to build families in the city where we're held captive. It's not about how you vote, is my point. It's about what sort of life are you going to live if America turns into Babylon? Are you going to sit around and pout? Are you going to yell at people because they voted the wrong way? Or are you going to look at this like how God came to Jeremiah and said, maybe God is doing something here for reasons, it said in the earlier chapter, he said, for the purposes that I gave, he says. For whatever purpose God thinks is good, maybe we just need to accept that the church is about to go into a different time. And the answer to what God is telling Jeremiah to tell the Jews is that in this time of captivity, and you and I will live, very possibly, in a time of American captivity as a church. He says, build families, live well, seek the good of the city. And he says, trust me, because I have a plan for you. That I'm doing something in all of this. So what is the politics? And I'm going to spend less time on politics than more. The politics for me is simple. Trust God with whatever he's doing. Trust God in whatever he's doing. Build families. Seek the good of the city. As Timothy was saying, do the work of evangelist. Be a reflection of Christ. The world, look, you're a mirror one way or the other. When the world interacts with you, they're either looking at themselves when they look at you, or they're looking at a reflection of Christ. That's it. And the world knows when they see themselves, they recognize that. They say, oh, you're just like me. I don't need, what you're talking about. But when they see the reflection of Jesus, it's something different. It's something different. So we need to be this reflection of Jesus in this time that's coming forward, right? Vote how you vote. Vote with your heart, vote with your conscience. Vote because of Jesus. It's a good thing, it's the right thing to do. But don't put, God has never used the government, hardly ever. I can't think of, to do his work. It always starts from the ground up. It always starts grassroots. It starts with Jesus in Nazareth, in a manger. It starts with 12 knuckleheads who don't get it after 3 years of being with the greatest leader teacher ever. Right? It starts with 60 people in a room who decide that we're not going to let Babylon define us. But instead, I'm going to trust that God is good. I'm going to live a life that reflects who God is. I'm going to build families. I'm going to seek the welfare of the city. And I'm going to trust that God knows what he's doing. And in that, I can have peace. In that, I can have peace. God is a trustworthy God, and he's worthy of trust. So as we close, I'm going to ask you, we're going to do a time of prayer. In fact, if the musicians would come, we normally do small groups, but